Testing. I'm testing. Here we are in the podcast. Hello?
Do you want to clap too, or?
Oh.
Or wait, never mind. You're. It's the same.
Is it?
It's just for me. Oh, isn't it? No. Clap. So welcome back to Burning Boat Business, a weekly podcast that follows the progress, success, and failure of our company Burning Boat, as well as ourselves. Last week we launched episode 1, where we talked a little bit about how we started the company, how we got to where we are today, and also what we wanted to use this podcast for. And we came up with the idea of using it as a show to talk more about the business side of our company. And I think being creatives, we have very little to almost no experience with business or starting a company. So I thought it might be a good place to start by talking a little bit more about what our experience then is, specifically within filmmaking. So we don't have experience with business, but we do have some experience with filmmaking. So
Right.
Do you want to just go quickly through and give a little bit about your background within filmmaking?
Yeah, sure. When did it start? I think I first got Final Cut 7 in like the 8th grade or 9th grade. I got it from a buddy. And then I started playing around with that and doing a little bit of like visual effects and stuff. And then for the 9th grade project, which was a project at our school. Were you there in the 9th grade?
I came halfway through 9th grade, so I didn't have to do the project.
Okay.
I was like halfway through it, but I was there to see everyone's project.
It was kind of a cool idea. It was like a project that they forced the students to do that would take the whole year basically. So you had to kind of decide at the beginning of the year, like a year-long project you wanted to get into, and then you would kind of have checkups throughout the year. And then I think at the end of the year there was like a presentation everyone had to give about what they had done that year. You know, some people like built a guitar, some people like learned how to make churros or something. And then I decided with a friend of mine to make a feature-length film. Well, I think originally we just wanted to do skits, like funny skits. And then one of the teachers was like, "Oh, that's not enough. You can't do that. You should try to make a
feature-length film."
Right. I don't think her realizing how much work that actually was. And we were like, okay, well, I guess we still want to like film something. So I guess, okay, we'll make this feature-length film. And it just like took over our lives for that year. Like every fucking lunch, every weekend I would go over to his house, we'd film. And then by the end of the year, we had like a 61-minute film called Dance
Nice.
Nerd Illusion, which is just fucking so bad. It's so horrible. But it was a good experience. It's kind of like I really learned how to use Final Cut then. I really learned how to edit, how to color correct, how to organize, because I mean it was a fucking nightmare to put that thing together. And I think that's sort of where my interest grew from. And then I had heard one of the older kids, Glenn, was trying to start IB Film at the school, I think. And he tried it for a year, and that didn't go through. And then I put out a petition, and my mom helped me with it. And then I don't remember how I honestly don't remember the details, but somehow they agreed and started this IB film class.
I had no idea that you were involved in
off the heels of this other person,
like
right? Yeah, because he had already tried and failed, so it was kind of off the heels of him and trying to get it started. And they started it, and it was a class with like 7 people or something. Which I was super excited about, because otherwise I would have taken drama, and I was just more interested in the filmmaking aspect rather than the acting aspect, although I liked drama as well. And so I did that for a year, and then I ended up moving my senior year to the States, where I think I filmed a couple things, like music videos and stuff. And then I applied for film school. I got into NYU, studied film there for 3 years, and got a job as an editor for their like online classes. And then ended up working on a feature film and a couple shorts, and then I decided to move to LA, and I worked as an editor there, or an assistant editor, in reality TV, which was blast. And then I guess that's the end of my. Well, then I became a junior editor at a different company, editing sizzles and stuff. And the whole time I'd been writing the script for my film, and then I moved on to shooting my first feature film now in just this April.
So going back to the IB film, because that's kind of where our stories overlap. And I remember when IB film was like introduced as an option, that we were all invited into Mr. Sinclair's office. Mr. Sinclair being the
vice principal
of the high school, but he was also then going to be the film teacher because he had photography experience. But being invited into his office, where we had to bring with us like a list of our favorite films, and then like have a round the table discussion about directors and filmmakers. Do you remember that?
No.
I don't remember if you were there, because all I remember is feeling so uncomfortable because I didn't know anything about what anyone was talking about, and I just felt really, really dumb when they would ask me like, so who's your favorite director? And I literally couldn't name like anyone. I think I made like a comment because Avatar had just came out, the James Cameron movie, and so I remember saying like, oh yeah, I really like that new guy who made Avatar. I said new guy, not knowing that he was the guy who had like directed Terminator and Titanic and all these huge films, and I just got like, what do you mean new guy? And it was like, this feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm kind of interested in this. And I feel like that could have easily put me off the idea of like doing the class, but I followed through with it, and I think within the first half year I like knew that filmmaking was definitely something I wanted to keep doing. And I think one experience that we actually had together was the 24-hour movie marathon that really cemented that for me, where just like film after film, I was like, this is amazing. Like, how have I not... Is there a bug in your room?
I thought that was a bee. It's just a fly.
How have I not discovered these films before? Like, how have I not branched off of watching like just action films and comedy films to watching films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Requiem for a Dream and The Truman Show and all these films? I think probably they were all ones that you suggested we should watch. I think I'd probably pick something like Shooter and like Lord of the Rings or something silly. So I just was like, wow, there's all this stuff that I haven't seen, and it's amazing. I went on like a year-long binge of just watching all the films that were, you should watch this, like all the classics. I went down the IMDb top 200 and tried to watch as many of them as I could.
I've tried to do that,
So after IB Film, I then also went to film school. Not the likes of NYU, but I went to Kent University, which is like right outside of London. They had a film program that was split kind of in the middle between being practical filmmaking and film theory. And I don't know if it's something I've justified afterwards, but I feel like I liked the idea of also learning a bit of theory and going through the history of film and like writing essays about it. And it was only once I got into it that I was just like, why do I have to do this half of the course? I just want to do filmmaking.
Right.
And it really wasn't a film school. There was no, or at least very little, practical filmmaking that was taught. It was more that we had short film projects where there would be a lot about like screenwriting and that side of things. We didn't have any editing lessons, or I think we were told how to turn on the camera and how to do the white balance on the camera, but that was it. And everything else was pretty much self-taught. And then after that, I graduated. I got a master's in filmmaking where I did like a project, a short film project that I wrote, directed, directed and edited, which was a big deal at the time. Again, now looking at it, I think the same as you were talking about the first film you made. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's just, it's not what you remember it being. Especially if you like make it and then you don't watch it for like 2 years and you watch it again and you're like, oh yeah, this thing, and then you watch it and you're like, oh. There's good ideas within it, and I think that's the thing that I realized, that for every film I made, I got better and better, and that's a very satisfying feeling, that each time you start a new project, you know that you can take what you learned from the last project and implement it, and it will be better, at least in some technical ways, but hopefully also in your ability to like tell a story and things like that.
Yeah.
But I graduated from that and decided that I didn't really want to work for another production company and work my way up like that. I think, yes, that's like a whole story in itself, but I decided to try and start my own company, calling it Mads Productions, and it was basically just a freelance thing where I marketed myself as someone who could shoot and edit video for other companies, their brands, or make music videos. And I got one job, I think. That's all. I did one wedding.
Right.
Where I hired my friend to help me shoot it, and then got paid 500 pounds for it. But I hired my friend for 125. I spent 100 on licensing music, and I also spent money traveling to the place. So in the end, I ended up making about 200 pounds on that job, and I worked for 2 full days, the second day being like 14 hours, and I edited for about 2 weeks straight afterwards. Yeah, and I don't really know where I was going.
Not worth it. Yeah.
It was, though, because I realized that I can actually do this, and the video turned out really well. And
I see.
Everyone really liked it, and it was a big success in that sense. But I haven't had any success with freelancing so far, and I think it was because I got caught up in my own project and found a way of funding that in itself, so I was able to focus on that 100% for a significant part of that year where I was trying to freelance.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because we have 2 very different paths right out of college.
Yeah.
Like basically the opposite of what you could do, right?
100% the opposite, but with very much, I feel the same. I kind of wanting to go the same, end up somewhere similar.
Right. Exactly.
And the first time we talked about starting or wanting to have our own company and how amazing that would be, I felt like we were both like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to have my own thing. I want to be able to start my own company and figure it out along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that's exciting for me, is that we have a passion for filmmaking and for creating things, but we don't necessarily have any experience with business or how that actually works.
None. Zero.
No, none at all. I mean, I've read like a couple of books, but I have no practical experience. But I think that's something I'd like to. I like to think of myself as someone who is able to learn by doing more than someone who's able to learn by studying. So I think that actually starting a company is the best way for me. I don't know about you.
I agree. I think I'm the same way. Everything sounds good in theory, but it can be hard to apply that theory to, it's easy to say you're going to start and run a company a certain way, but I feel like you find out quickly when you start it how you actually act and what you actually need to do.
So following that thought process, why don't we talk a little bit about what our plan is to actually get the company off the ground and running.
Where do you want to start?
Let's start with day 1 of you landing in Copenhagen.
Okay. Well, let me start with this. I feel like I'm so motivated right now about the company because
Yeah.
so we were supposed to do the podcast on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Originally. And then I was like, hey, can we do it on Saturday? It's because I got my blood work done on Monday, and I went back for a check on Wednesday, and the doctor said, he's like, oh, your liver numbers are really high. One of them is really high. It could be an infection, right?
Uh-huh.
And it could have something to do with your thyroid, which I found out, side note, I have an underactive thyroid. But also, I might have some sort of liver infection, right?
Okay.
Which could be hepatitis. And he said it in such a, like, common, like, blasé, like, oh, it might be hepatitis. It could be hepatitis. Like, in a very serious, like, it could be hepatitis. So for 2 days, I feel like I had in my head, I convinced myself that I had hepatitis and how I would deal with this. And how suddenly in my head, something was like, oh, then I'm all fucking in. Then I want to do everything in life. Like, not be reckless, but something kind of clicked of, like, wanting to go even that bit further, that little bit further. Because I was like, well, if I'm going to have this thing that, you know, would affect me for the rest of my life, essentially.
How does hepatitis affect you? What is it?
It's like a liver infection. I mean, I looked it up very briefly because I didn't want to, like, self-diagnose myself and, like, get into it too much. But it's essentially a sexually transmitted disease, right? It affects your liver. That's all I really know.
Okay.
But there was something about that thought that just, like, freaked me out completely. Just the idea of, like, having to tell people. I was like, I'm going to have to maybe bring it up on the podcast. Just to tell everyone at once that I have this thing, right? Just in the name of honesty, and just be like, well, that's that. That sucks. And moving on from there, right? Long story short, I found out that I don't have it yesterday, which was a huge relief. I still don't know what the liver thing is, but the doctor was like, you know, don't worry about it. Come back in 3 months, do another test. But anyways, getting back to the point of just, like, I feel like it just made me so... I mean, you can't compare it to, like, a near-death experience, but it has that feeling a little bit where it's like after something like that happens a little bit, you appreciate, right, your health and your life and everything, and kind of gives you that reset, and it's like, fuck yeah, like, let's go balls to the walls on this thing, like, let's put everything in it. Let's go as hard as possible. Again, not that I needed that motivation to begin with, I was pretty excited to begin with, but I feel like that's where I'm coming into it from, so I'm coming into Copenhagen, like, guns blazing.
I think it's the feeling of something like that happens and forces you to think about what you're doing with your life. And correct me if I'm wrong, but then you realize that you are doing what you want to be doing with it, and that's even more exciting.
Right.
I've had, like, not that I've had something like that, like a health scare, but just moments of contemplating, like, yeah, this is 100% what I want to do, and, like, I don't have to make any, like, big change to my life right now. I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah, and it's not the change, but it's the motivation. It's the have you ever had an experience where you're, like, skiing or snowboarding? Like, I remember me and my brother once went off piste, and we kind of ended up in this very, like, sketchy course right between two mountains, which was totally off piste, right? And we both fell in the middle of these two mountains kind of coming together. And I stepped off my snowboard, and I kind of fell through, like, a little bit of ice on the bottom and fell, like, into this tiny stream that was going underneath, right? It was like a 1-foot drop or something. And we did not know how we were going to get out of there. I had no idea how anyone would find us. We had gone, like, completely off course, stuck in these two mountains. And then in my head, for a second, I was like, what if I had fallen through into, like, a little cavern down there or something, blah, and I had this whole thing play out in my head of, like, nobody being able to find us, and, like, well, this is it, you know, say goodbye. And slowly we, like, clawed our way through the snow and got out of it, and then rode off just past these mountains, because there's no way we're going to walk all the way back up to where we had started, and just hoped that we would, you know, hit a piste at some point, and we ended up hitting it. And that was one of those experiences where I was just like, you come back to regular life and suddenly, I don't know, there's something that changes a little bit, and you're like, fuck, man, I need to either change this certain aspect about my life or be more grateful for this certain aspect or live life a little bit more to the fullest, right? And the interesting thing, like you're saying, is that I am doing what I want to do in life.
I know exactly what you're saying, and I wasn't gonna. Now that you've talked about that, I was trying to think: have I had any like near-death experiences or any like moments where I've been like, "Wow, that forced me to really think about what I was doing," and I couldn't think of anything in terms like an accident or something like that happening. But immediately then, I realized that when I was right before I graduated university, I started to have a serious, and you know this, but I think it'd be interesting to talk about, a serious issue with alcohol and not being able to control it. Once I started drinking it, it was like, that's now what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of days. And at the time, I wasn't sure why that was or what it was that was making me feel like I had to do that, or why I was so lost for other ways of behaving. And I think now, a few years later, I think it's very clear that it was this feeling of not doing with my life what I wanted to be doing, and I was kind of like gearing up for the thought of graduating university and then having to find a job with someone else, like working at a production company and doing these things that I just didn't want to be doing. And it wasn't so much that I didn't want to, work hard and start somewhere, at the bottom and work up and learn that way. It was more of like I don't know what I want to do at all. Like, I don't even know if this is what I want to do. And film wasn't something that excited me because of, like, the technical aspects of filmmaking and being part of a crew. And like, as a job, it was more the release it was able to give me through storytelling and being able to talk about how I felt through the stuff I was creating. As it wasn't the filmmaking itself, it was that I found some way of expressing how I felt. And when I made the decision to go off on my own and like, whatever happens, I'm gonna make it by myself, as silly as that maybe was, I will never regret doing that, because it made me suddenly align with how I actually felt. And I started doing what I, in hindsight, realized is what I wanted to do. And I haven't had a problem with, it's like I fixed the problem by doing that. And now the only thing that would be left over is like remnants of a bad habit, certain triggers that pop up every so often. It's like, I understand what that is, but like, the problem is gone. I'm doing what I want to do. And it's just a very exciting feeling to feel so different mentally after something like that.
Yes.
I definitely had some moments of like, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this right now? And not being able to answer it, which is such a scary feeling.
That's
where
interesting.
now I'm like, I know what I'm doing and I know why I want to do it.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter if the first 10 things we do to start this company don't work. I think we're both very clear that it will work at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it's like more of like, this is definitely what we're doing. Let's figure it out. And I was talking to Phoebe, my girlfriend, about like, do I think that it's going to be easy or hard to get it off the ground, the company? Or like, what are my expectations for how quickly we can like get our first paid job, for example, freelancing? And without trying to answer that question, I realized that the projects we've worked on so far, they have been films. But when we've like worked on my film, that was all we thought about, even while we were like asleep, for the entire duration of that thing. And then we did your film, and for an entire month, that is the only thing that we thought about for a whole month. And it's like, no matter what happens, even if it's snowing and we have a scene outdoors, we have to figure out how to make it work. And it's like, there is no option because we're in it right now.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so sure about what we're doing, because I know that now this is now 100% what we're focused on.
Yeah.
For however long it takes to really get it to a point where then we can start building on it. So I think let's talk a little bit like more concrete what our plan is, because we have thought about what are the best ways to essentially move to a new city, have no connections, and build a network that allows us to live off of making content for other brands or companies or bands or individuals who we are excited about and who we feel like we would want to be associated with and work with. We came up with a pretty basic concept of working out how long could we realistically work for free and still be able to, you know, pay rent and buy food, and spend that time working as hard as we possibly could with as many different people, just trying to build connections and show what we can do, instead of trying to, from the beginning, charge someone for a promotional video.
Right, we have no leverage. We have nobody knows who we are.
We don't, and I think it's almost like a liberating realization to have, because I spent a lot of time building myself up in my head as like, oh, I only want to work on stuff that I'm passionate about, and I there is definitely a way to work on projects that would advance my career as well as be something that I get paid to do. And I don't want to, I had a lot of these like opinions that said that I wanted to work exactly how I want to work, and anything less just wasn't good enough for me. And I've very much gotten over that feeling, and it's not like I've realized, oh, we have to like be realistic. It's more that I've like, oh, like, that makes sense. We don't have the leverage to request anything, but what we do have is, you know, hustle and equipment and some talent, and that we can use that, and that's more exciting than having these like notions of wanting to only work on specific projects, but it's just never actually happening.
Taking somebody and offering them a free video, and then I feel like they're gonna be like, yeah, like whatever, dude, do what you want, to then creating a really good project and seeing them be, you know, happy with it or like impressed with what we did would be exciting.
I really like the idea of approaching a company that we've found or something that in one way or another aligns with something that we think is important, and then approaching them and then saying, oh, that's really cool, but we already have a video, we don't need it. And we'd be like, that's fine, like we'll just make one anyways. We'll try and be as invisible as possible, we won't get in your way. Just let us do it, and if you like it, you can keep it completely for free. If you don't, you go with the one you already have. And I think that might also invite people to say yes, not just because it's free, but because it's also then not like cheating on the videographer or the filmmaker that already made their video. Which I feel like a lot of people that I have approached so far have had. It's like, oh, like we have a friend who does it.
It's always that though. It's like a friend or a relative or like somebody's uncle's kid.
Someone they know.
You know? Yeah.
And that's the thing that we don't have. We don't know people yet. We also talked about being able to do more like short form content for like social media for the other company's social media accounts, and making like an Instagram story or a Facebook video or something short that could literally be done in a day, and showing what we can do in that sense, and having it be very little, what's the word, like very low cost on our end, time-wise. And being able to do a lot of those, even like 2 or 3 for the same company, and then be like, well, do you want something bigger? Or, you know, I think now we've established that we're good at what we do, we're going to start charging, and it being a very comfortable transition into, we're doing this for free because we know that no one knows us, to now we've done that part. Now we.
So I think that's a key is to, I think, research the company beforehand and know what they need before they know. So we can go in and say, we think you need this because of these reasons. You don't really have a social media account, blah, blah, blah. We'll make you 3 videos to start that off, whatever.
And that's offering a lot of value.
For free.
And once they see that there's value, it doesn't matter if it's free or not. It's like, then there's value, and then they can see that.
Well, I think it does matter. Yeah.
Paid.
I mean, it's just, why would you say no to someone offering you? Especially, and I say knowing what they want before, rather than going in and being like, hey, what do you guys need? Right? Going in and being like, we'd like to do this for you, because we think it would add value to your company.
Yeah. I think it's a very strong approach, because it doesn't. I think we talked about this a little bit at some point. The idea of it doesn't seem desperate. It seems very calculated and very honest, and like we know what situation we're in, and we know what we can do. So we're happy to do this for a certain amount of time, so that it'll.
Right, which is true as well. I don't feel like we're being dishonest, and I think we are aware of.
No.
Nobody does know us. Why would anybody hire us? Based on what? You know what I mean? Although we do have the trailer, it's not like we have nothing.
I
think we might be underselling ourselves a little bit.
And I think we are, because I was making a list of stuff to go on our website yesterday, and there's like a good couple of videos that 100% have a place on the website as pieces of final work that can like be shown, and trailer being one of them. What were the other ones? So like the videos that we made the first time around that we like decided to launch a Burning Boat website, which were about conveying our why and why we do what we do, and weren't so much centered around being a promotional video for our services. It was just meant to be like it's almost like a little short film in a way. It has like a beginning, middle, and end, and it talks about certain things. But that is like almost to me like a little film that could go somewhere. If we had like feature-length film posters and trailers, then we had a promotional video for Burning Boat freelance work, and then we had other short films or short things that we had worked on just to be our portfolio essentially. Because we do have a lot of work that we can show. That's the thing. But it's the difference between having the work and then people knowing us. It's like that's the combination you want. You want to have built up a relationship and be able to show that your work is good.
Do you think it should be feature films first or the promotional video first? Because who is it targeting? If it's targeting, I think if it's targeting the businesses, rather than if we were sending this to investors and stuff, feature films first. But if we're giving out business cards to people saying like, check out our work, can we do something for you, right? Can we make a video for you? I feel like the first thing should just be.
So I think the website is definitely
right now
at the businesses that we want to work with. So right now. So but then the question is the advantage to put the promotional video first and very quickly say, this is what we do. Yeah. Are you interested? And show some like similar stuff in that video. Or is it presenting ourselves more in the light of us being filmmakers who are working on feature-length films and have those skill sets, and we do videos as well, so that it's almost like that gives us more credibility than. I'm not saying that's what I think. I'm just going through that option. So if you come onto the website and it's like, oh, these are feature-length films, these look interesting. Oh, and they also make videos. I don't know. I think you might be right to put the video.
It just feels, if we put the feature films, it feels like we're focused on other things and we're doing this for you on the side, which is true. That is the truth. But I don't think we have to tell them that.
That is true.
They should think.
I don't think we have to
we're
market it as that. I don't think we'd have to hide from the fact that that's what we're doing.
But I think we want them to feel that we're focused 100% on them.
On last week's episode, we decided on what the podcast name should be. We hadn't talked about it beforehand. And I think that was a really interesting thing to do, and we should do it again. So I asked you to come up with ideas for a logo for our company, because that's something we don't have yet. So we've both come up with some ideas for a logo we haven't talked to each other about yet. So should we do that now?
Let's.
I already see stuff that I like.
Come on, baby. All right, so this is where I started, right?
Yeah, okay.
Put this full screen.
So that's our old logo. So for those of you listening to this and not watching the YouTube video, we already have a logo that we've been using for the past half year or so. That is basically two bees, one of them inverted, with one of the bees looking kind of like water and the other looking like fire.
Right. So that served
like
us
an animation.
Well, right, but
yeah, we've used that a lot, and I think it worked well for what we've been doing up until now, which is more of like YouTube content, action sports videos, and that kind of thing.
Right. And then this was an older rendition of one that was just kind of the small burning boat, the burning boat. And so then I took burning boat and I just went through a bunch of iterations of like what it could be, trying out colors. I really don't like these colors.
It looks kind of like a skateboarding logo.
This one does, yeah. This one looks like designer. This is like, I don't know what's going on there. Looks like the parental advisory.
And I think the two ways that we talked about being able to go were one, like or actually three ways. First way just being the text, so burning boat written out in a certain way, with a specific font.
Something like
Second way being a very, very simple logo, something that we could almost draw ourselves or create ourselves.
Right.
And then the third option being something more intricate that we would need someone to help us create. Or at least that it would take us a while to make. And I think there's advantages for all three. So
basically I went through all this tech stuff and I really hate all of this. But it was good to like go through, right? And then I talked to a good friend of mine, Brandon, and he started designing this logo. Let's see here. Give me a couple options.
Okay, yeah, I see
that? So it's like a paper boat with a flame on top of it.
Yeah.
And that one I really like, just because the paper boat to me is very like recognizable. And it is very it's very simple and easy to draw.
Yeah.
And this is a different rendition. This one has the flame around the little paper boat. This one.
Oh, I see.
You see this flame, and this is a ship here.
Yeah. Which
would make more sense with like the whole reference to Cortez and everything. And there's a bee here. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah.
So that's a ship and a flame. Then this is kind of a cleaner version on his computer of the ship and the flame.
I really like the idea of a paper boat.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it could literally just be like a couple of lines that create that shape.
Exactly.
And it'd be very recognizable.
Exactly.
I think that these. My only thing with these are that they look like emblems or like coins in a way that maybe is a bit like video gamey.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Whereas like if I can like the one that's just the paper boat by itself on the bottom.
This one?
Without the circle around it, I feel it gets a lot closer to something.
Okay.
Like if it could be the same shape, but without all the black. Like if it were just clean, like if it were just the lines, for example, and nothing was colored in.
Just the triangles.
Yeah, I mean it could still have the circle and the flames, but maybe not colored in. Do you know what I mean?
Ah. So it'd be, instead of like black on white, this would just be the inverse, basically.
It'd be maybe inverted. I think that might work better. Yeah.
I wouldn't like necessarily associate it to a certain, whereas I've never really seen like a paper. There's something very, every time I see it now.
I think it's true because it's like we're also, we're starting very small.
Right.
And that's something I really like, that it's, you know, a small production company. It's not a ship, it is a paper boat.
Right. And then I just pictured for the intro for a video, right? There's so many different ways to do it. The one in my head right now was just like raging flames, right? That so slowly go out, and it's just like the ashes left is this
Paper.
little paper boat or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Puts an image in your head.
I
And
definitely think we should go down the line of having a logo and not just having text.
yes.
I think that's something that we could use also on our social media handles. Just like a flame and a boat instead
Right.
of a burning boat.
Right.
Or it's like something that we put on Facebook content.
Yes. Or even, yeah. And the main thing is for these, I mean, they're all circular right now just because I was thinking of Instagram
I see.
and fitting it in that small, which is why it also, I think
I
it
get
just
it.
needs to be super simple and it needs to pop. So it can't be like too many details, too many.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So for my ideas, I was imagining more so than the Instagram circle or the YouTube thumbnail, I was imagining it being on the business card or as the first thing you see when you go onto the website. You know, they have those big, or at the moment we have, you know, one big image that covers the whole screen when you first get to our page.
Yeah.
So I was imagining something like that. So what I went for was the complete opposite of what you've done. So what I came up with was, have you ever, you know, like blueprints of apartments or of houses?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you like roll out this big thing and you see all the measurements of all the walls. It would kind of be like a slice of the structure that you could like see. They do those for ships as well, so like big ships, and they like cut the ship in half and it's like flat. Imagining looking at a ship that's like lying on its side, so you see all the different masts, all of the different corridors inside the ship with like measurements here and like text, but like it's all, you know, almost like stuff has been written around it, like little tiny notes. It's in planning. It's like they're gonna build the ship, so they have a blueprint of the ship, and it's this specific color of blue with white lines to represent, you know, the structure itself. I think what might help is if you Google ship blueprint, something like. So those are obviously many of them, but like pick one, or let me find another one. Like the top one here. Where you could like, it could be filled with little details that are just things that are exciting to us. And like burning boat could be written in there as one of the measurements or something. And it could say kind of also what we do. So for a business card, that would be the whole front of it. And it would have, you know, little bits of text, tiny, like microscopic. You could barely read it, but if you like really looked, you could see that it said things like social media or promotional video. That's maybe a bit boring, but we could come up with something interesting.
Yeah.
Or our names or our heights or something, or like when it was founded and things like that.
I like that.
And then the thing was, it would also then be burnt. It would still be burning. So it would be this ship blueprint, but then with something like this coming off of it, like it was all hand drawn. So like the blueprint itself was on fire, like the ship in the blueprint was on fire, and like crazy raging smoke. So it's almost like you're burning down the ship. That's this big, more of like a corporate thing. And then it could literally be like two people swimming off to the side, like tiny, tiny, tiny little, almost just like lines. I don't know if it's so much a logo as it is like a piece of content.
I love that. Yeah, so it's the the paper boat as a symbol of something recognizable, but as soon as we can scale up, so the website, the what did we just say, business cards,
Yeah.
anything like that would have some sort of, because I really like these blueprints.
It's cool, right? There's something
Yeah.
about it. It's very calculated and stuff. But if it's like all burning, it's like, whoa. It's like, screw the plan. So we started by talking about what our experience is in terms of how we got into filmmaking, and that we have that background but don't have a business background.
Yeah.
So maybe we could end by talking about what one of our like weaknesses is that is important to address when starting this company. Because I feel like that's as important as it is knowing like what you're good at and being able to showcase those skills to other companies, knowing ourselves that we're not good at this and this, and we really need to be aware of that, is a super useful thing.
I think, I'm just going to talk through this. I'm not sure if this is true, but I think I do have a problem with wanting things to be perfect and then not finishing things because they never turn out to be exactly the way I wanted them to. And I think especially if we're working for other companies or making these kind of quick turnaround videos, right? Not that they can't be good, but kind of not getting bogged down in editing a video for 7 days that we're not going to get paid for just because we want it to be like so perfect in terms of representing our company and us and everything, and at some point just being like, well, this is a good video and we need to move on to the next thing, and just to kind of like keep things going, right? Which I have a very difficult time with. I do want to spend 7 days on something, even if it's totally useless, just to...
I think it's interesting that you brought that up, because that's something that I've noticed that we're very different about, and that I feel like we're balancing each other out quite a bit. That I'm pretty happy to put something out that isn't that great because I decided to try and it didn't turn out like I wanted it to, but I still want to upload it because it's something.
Right.
And it's a learning experience to upload it. And sometimes, you never know, it is actually better than you thought. But that I'm becoming a little bit more aware of the value of just, I can still spend a little bit more time, a little bit more effort on getting it to, even if it is a bad video or like not what I wanted it to be, making it a little bit better, and not stopping at, it's bad anyways, or it's not what I want it to be, and then uploading it. Taking an hour more to add some sound effects to it, because I wasn't going to do that, because what's the point?
Yeah.
It's not even that great, so it's just going to stay that way. And I've started to do that a little bit more, and I think that's mainly because of your attention to detail. So I don't know if you feel the same way, that maybe you're becoming a little bit more comfortable with putting stuff out, even if it isn't. I guess that's kind of what you said.
Exactly. Well, it's from the first podcast, right? If I had done that myself, I probably would not have put that out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think we do balance ourselves in a nice way. And it is a liberating thing to be like, fuck it. Here it is. Right? And accepting that some people are going to be like, this is shit. But fine. At least we did it, and at least we put it out there. And the more I think about it, it is pretty good. It wasn't perfect. You know, it could have been better.
It's funny because having just said that I'm quite happy to put stuff out, even if it's not like perfect. That is what I would say. The opposite is the case for when it comes to like the business stuff that we're talking about, where I feel like something I really have to work on is not being afraid of rejection, or not like being okay with people saying no and not wanting it or saying it wasn't good, because that is something that holds me back a lot. So that would hold me back from actually contacting someone or showing up at someone's door or calling them again, because that's something I really don't enjoy and I really try to avoid, is like this feeling of they didn't like what I did or they didn't want to work with us.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's something that I have to work on. I think it's different in terms of uploading stuff like this and like YouTube, because it is about being completely authentic and you can do whatever you want and there isn't any reason why you wouldn't want to do that. And I'm okay with some people not liking it and some people liking it, but when it's like with the business and like making money, the idea of showing up at someone's door with all this stuff and being like, can we make a video for you? And then
Right.
being like, no, that to me is a lot more scary than like putting out something about something very personal.
That's interesting.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
So that's something I have to, I think, get over, because that's very much part of our game plan, which is just approach as many people as possible and just, like you said,
And the thing is, right, if you really think about
crazy
it,
when you get here.
yeah, but the more, if we made 10 videos, right,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like if everyone said, this is exactly what we wanted, this is perfect, actually, I don't know what I'm saying. I was about to say, then we're probably doing something wrong, because I feel like one or two of them, we should have pushed it too far. But then we're
Yes.
not really trying to be...
That's a whole nother,
Yeah,
that's a whole
yeah,
nother
yeah.
podcast right there, because I think that's also very interesting about like blurring the lines between doing what they want and then also, you know,
I
experimenting.
think we
a
want to
little bit
push
and,
it.
like,
Yeah.
make, like, it's a brand, you know, we're a brand, so we want to stand out and be something that we are and not just make exactly what they want, because then we're just like every other, then anyone can do it, you know?
Yeah.
I think those are two things to keep in mind.
Interesting. Okay, and then just off of the hepatitis thing again, I think, just quickly, where I was saying it makes you more grateful and more appreciative in, you know, whatever regard. Like, it's kind of cheap. Like, I was texting people and being like, oh, I love you, dude, and blah, blah, blah. And you kind of, like, that comes up again. And I feel like
I didn't get anything.
Well, I want to say right now, like, how excited I am for this company and how, like, appreciative I'm to be working with you. Like, sitting down and, like, thinking for a moment how amazing it is that this is happening and that I'm working with someone that it's such a good relationship and things. Currently, it's just such an exciting time in my life, and I'm just very appreciative all the way back to having worked on your film, because that's kind of, you know, everything that set all this stuff off. So just to put that out there. Yeah.
I obviously feel exactly the same. And I think that we have been, I was trying to think, have we been lucky or have we just been very good at doing it? Because, yeah, we worked together on my film and it was an amazing experience. We're like, let's start a company, and it was like great. And then we talked like every day for 8 months, and it was just getting more and more exciting. Everything's like, we want to do it. We're not getting like put off by one another. And then all of a sudden we're in New York together and we're living together for a full month, working nonstop for a full month, and nothing changed.
That's the
like,
crazy
I was
thing.
thinking,
That could have been a nightmare.
how many things could, like, oh wow, he's actually really weird about this, and I didn't know, because, you know, Skyping, you can be, you don't get the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I think it is not luck. I think it's something that we're good at doing, which is being very open and communicating and saying how we feel and what we like and what we don't like. And that's the main point, because we are very different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's more than anything what I really appreciate about what we're doing is, yeah, we're not competing, we're working together.